To the NFL draft, and the New York Football Giants are the fascinating story. They are holding private workouts now for 3 quarterbacks. We talked yesterday about Colorado's Shedeur Sanders. Now the reports that they will also be holding private workouts for Alabama's Jalen Milroe and Louisville's Tyler Shuck. The Giants are currently scheduled to pick at 3, at 34, and they have 2 third-round picks, numbers 65 and 99. What does that mean? It means they have ammunition to move up and move around in the draft should they decide to do so. I'll remind you that 34 is the second pick in the second round. So, Graziano, I start with you, with Lewis here and E.J. Manuel and our buddy Peter Schrager. What should we take from the fact that the Giants, we talked all day yesterday about Shedeur, now they're working on Milroe and Shuck. What?
This was always the plan for them to do private workouts with their top quarterback candidates in this draft. They had one with Jackson Dart a few weeks ago. So these 3 this week, right, Tyler Shuck and Shedeur Sanders and Jalen Milroe, put them with Dart, and now you have a group of 4 that you can say, these are the most likely outcomes in terms of Giants if they get quarterback in this draft. Now, the question is where? They're picking 3rd. Can you completely rule out the possibility that they take Shedeur Sanders or one of these quarterbacks at 3? No, because they need one so badly. I still get the sense that the most likely outcome is they take Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, whichever one Cleveland hasn't taken at 2, and then they figure out quarterback with their next pick. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean sit at 34 and take it. You mentioned the 2 third-rounders. They could move up into the first round if that's what it takes to get the guy they like. But these are the guys to watch. And so I think you're working out these guys because you want to be as prepared as possible when you get the chance. So if Shedeur Sanders is there in the teens and 20s and you love him and you want to make a move up, you got to know. Brian Daboll, the head coach, believes the private workout is an essential part of the evaluation process. So they weren't going to do any of this in terms of considering quarterbacks until they had these private workouts. It was always part of the plan.
Joe Schoen speaks with the New York media at noon today. So 12 o'clock Eastern, the GM of the Giants going to have his last opportunity to speak with the media, address the media, and do so in a way where there will be questions about Shedeur Sanders. There will be questions about Abdul Carter. You might think these are just frivolous things. Always mean the New York media is pretty good. Let's see if we can read it between the lines and see if he does have a preference between any of these players and if there is a plan in place as to why they're meeting with all these quarterbacks this week.
Do you agree, from all the people you talk to, and you guys are talking to a lot of the same people, but sometimes different, with Dan, that the Giants taking the quarterback at 3 at this point is unlikely?
I would be very surprised if they took a quarterback at 3, and I'd be very surprised if after passing on Micah Parsons a few years ago, they pass on Abdul Carter.
Okay, fair enough. So that we set the table there. Now, I've said this before, find you someone who loves you the way Lewis loves Tyler Shuck, the quarterback out of Louisville. But that's, as you hear this, right? Yeah, I mean, he's a big fan. Right?
Yes.
It's a good look on your face.
No, it
gave me a funny look. He's a big fan.
He's not alone.
I like him too.
Talk to me about this. Talk to me about the Giants situation here. I will admit, now you and I have been doing the draft together now for a few years. You've been doing a lot longer than I have. When I heard that Jalen Milroe was coming to Green Bay next Thursday night, I was really surprised. Guys don't tend to go to the draft unless they expect they're going to hear their name called on Thursday night.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to quarterback evaluation. You can poll 10 people, and 10 people will tell you, like, they would stack those 3 players. They would stack Shedeur, Tyler, and Jalen totally differently. There's some guys who don't think Shedeur's a first rounder. There's people who think that Jalen Milroe is a first rounder. There's people who think that, look, I saw Diana Rossini tweet the other day that their head coach told her that he believes that Tyler Shuck's the best quarterback in this draft. And that includes Cam Ward. That's how much varying opinion you have to stack these 3 guys. That may be a part of their process that they were always going to have these private workouts this late in the process. But I promise you, this is also a function of 2 other things. Mike Tannenbaum hit on one of them, which was there isn't consensus in the building about how to stack these 3 guys in the event that they're all still 3 available after they pick 3rd overall. And number 2, I promise you this, John Mara is looking over this whole thing. Mm-hmm. What did he say coming into this draft first and foremost? We need to find a long-term answer at the quarterback position. Right. So they're going to take this all the way up to the 11th hour and 59 minutes. We did it in 2004 when we drafted Sean Taylor in Washington. We had Kellen Winslow Jr. on top of our board the night before we left to go home before the draft. And we met late into the night about Sean Taylor, Kellen Winslow, Sean Taylor. The next morning, it was flipped. And we took Sean Taylor. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. What matters is that you get the person that's going to give you the return on investment you want.
All right, so EJ, you've been studying all of these guys. Let's go through them. Shedeur Sanders. Dan Orlovsky said on this show it's the most complicated quarterback evaluation that Dan has had to make in all the years that he's been working in TV. What do you see when you watch Shedeur Sander?
Well, I see a lot of poise. That's the biggest thing. I mean, and I feel like you see the ultimate level of confidence. And you'll see that with some of these plays here. The first one is the ability to break outside the pocket and also move up in the pocket. This is what you're going to see a lot in the NFL. You're going to have some exterior blitzes. But watch the ball placement. That's my favorite part of this play, where I'm talking about the ability to break outside the pocket. Now, mind you, BYU's the best defense that they played against the entire season. They were the best defense in the Big 12. You get outside the pocket, you can easily take this check down. Ultimate confidence right here. Put the ball up and over I get freaky and do what he does. I think the Giants should take Travis Hunter, in my opinion. But here's the other part about this. So reading coverage, 2 invert right here. So you think the safety is going to come down and get back to the deep half? He's not. The corner, Lewis, is going to take that half, and he can't get there. He knows, he checks to it, it turns into a touchdown. So to me, you mentioned that Dan said this is a tough draft or a tough
evaluation. This particular
I don't think
player,
it's that tough, Greeny. I mean, he's a first-round pick. That's
no one's debating that.
Right.
But here's the question: is he the 3rd pick in the draft? And here's why it is tough for those who did not watch a lot of him. What we just saw on that tape, that's his superpower, right? Mm-hmm. All the stuff that we want quarterbacks to have: anticipation, playing with feel, pinpoint accuracy, all that stuff. What he isn't is he isn't 6'4 and a half.
Sure.
He doesn't run a 4.6 40.
Lewis, that doesn't matter because.
Well, does it or does it not?
It doesn't matter. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that are successful in the league that are 6'6". Yeah. We know that. But as far as him being the 3rd pick, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not the 3rd best player. Right. I don't think the Giants should take him because the Giants need to win right now. You already got Russell Wilson on your roster. You got Jameis Winston, guys who are experienced. Go get a defensive player or get Travis Hunter if he's still there. I would rather Shedeur go to the Saints, personally, as far as
would be 9.
Placement. Yeah.
You know what? Look, this is what GMs and what personnel directors, coaches, what they're looking for when you're talking about a top 3, top 5 pick. They're looking for physical traits that in the event that the player doesn't work out, they can sit there and go, it wasn't because we didn't identify the right physical profile. That's what it is. Look, it's about mitigating risk at the top of the draft. And if you draft a player who's 6'1", 6'2", runs a 4.8 40, doesn't have a howitzer of an arm, and you miss on him and you drafted him 3rd overall, what do you think is going to probably happen at some point in time? You're going to be looking for work. You draft a guy who looks like the prototype, and then he busts. You can sit there and go,
you blame the coach.
That was him. Exactly. That wasn't me. And that's what it is. That's what happens. Because I tell you what, look, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Shedeur Sanders. You're going to tell me Russell Wilson is going to give them a markedly much greater chance at winning football games as the way that roster is presently constructed than Shedeur Sanders. There's no way. He's not.
That said, the acquisition of Russell Wilson gives them the luxury where they don't have to take a quarterback.
Right.
That's my.
But when you look at keep the train on the tracks a little bit, and I would say the last time, and Lewis, you could correct me, and Dan, of course, EJ, I think Baker was the last non-prototypical quarterback, size-wise, arm-wise, that a team said, no, we're taking him first of all, and they took him over Josh Allen.
Well, Bryce Young went, and he smaller also. But generally, you want to be able to check those boxes.
No doubt. That's exactly what you're trying to do.
You said Batman's your favorite superhero, right? He would not go top 3 in a superhero draft.
That's correct.
Because he can't fly.
Right.
And he doesn't have X-ray vision.
That's right.
But he might turn out to be the best one of all of them.
He is.
Yeah.
It's just you're not willing to risk that level of pick.
Because
that's what it is.
His superpower is smarts.
He knows
that's the most important thing to be, is to be the smartest one. And that's what Shedeur is.
He had Alfred, and
no,
that helps to have a guy like Alfred.
Well, so Mike always used to say, yeah, but then he always winds up tied to the train tracks, and Superman has to save him. I understand that. Yeah. Superman can bail you out of situations Batman can't, but Batman usually won't put you in that situation in the first place. All right, we've taken this analogy as far as it can go.
It was good, though.
I want to get to, as we go here this morning, Jalen Milroe, they have 17 players going to this draft. Jalen Milroe choosing to attend fascinates me.
Very interesting. He's meeting this week with not just the Giants, but also the Seahawks and the Rams. Seahawks picking 18, Rams picking 26. Now think about this. Well, I like to ask teams, like, how many first-round grades do you have on guys this year? And some years it's like, 23. It's never 32, ever. Right, yeah. This year it's a little bit less than 20. So if you're the Rams, you're picking at 26, and all your first-rounders are gone. Maybe we take Stafford's year to year now. Maybe we take a guy that might be a difference maker for us down the road at the most important position.
That is a spot I've had a lot of people mocking one of these quarterbacks to go. Okay, as you can see, we are jammed this morning, and we're just getting.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các bạn làm vòng nhé. Và hôm nay của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là thổ cẩm. Mọi người, hôm nay tiêu đề mình có là phòng trừ. Bây giờ mình sẽ bắt đầu làm nhé. Mỏi quá, anh là nằm nóng quá. Thấy không? Đầu tiên là màu hồng.